I'm back. I hope everyone is doing well. I am Portia with Uplift Her, and today is Sunday Fun Day, my favorite day of the week. We do have a new guest today. I'm excited to bring her on. I'll tell you a little bit about her in just a minute. So, I just wanted to be vulnerable for a minute and say this month it's been something, but I'm very, very grateful for it. And I want to dedicate this show to my grandmother, my dada Walker. She passed away a couple weeks ago, and you see me smiling, but I shed some tears about it, but I'm so grateful that she is not hurting anymore, and I see her smiling. She's here with me today, and I'm just so excited. So let's get this thing going. So guys, my guest today is Dr. Pennie Murray. Okay, she is original native from Kansas City, Missouri. Now she resides in North Texas for over 14 years. She's also an author of award-winning book, teacher, and advocate of Giving Myself Permission, Putting Fear and Doubt in Their Place. Y'all see this shirt? Y'all see this? Yes. Yes. Get into it. Yes. She also holds a doctorate in IO psychology. She is a podcast host of Straight Vibes, No Chasers. Go check it out on Spotify if you haven't. You're missing out. She also is an activist, facilitator for inner wellness within the African American community through her recent initiative, which is the North Dallas Black Inner Wellness Collective. And also, y'all, she's my auntie. Yes, and she's my godmother. I always want to put that out there because I just love her so much. So guys, I want to bring her on. I'm so excited to have her on here today. Give me just a moment. Yes. Dr. Pennie Murray on. Yes. That's my auntie. I know her. Yes.
Hey.
Awesome.
Hey.
Welcome. I'm
Hold
so
on,
happy.
hold on. Can you see my t-shirt too?
Hey, strong, black, and vulnerable.
Strong,
Yes.
black, and vulnerable. My favorite. My favorite t-shirt. So go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on here today. I'm so excited. I'm just beaming with joy. Let's get this thing started. So one of your favorite things that I hear you say within your work and your everyday life is my favorite quote from you. You want me to say it or you gonna say it? I like how you say it.
You are never the victim of life. You are always a student of purpose. So what is the universe teaching you to become, to bring? And we need to keep in mind that every day we wake up starts our new class for the day. And we wake up, a lot of people say, well, wake up with gratitude. That's good. But you also need to know that gratitude sometimes don't take us throughout the day because stuff happens, people flip off on you, and you be like, I ain't feeling grateful right now because I'm getting ready to punch you in the neck, okay?
All right.
But if we keep in mind that today when I wake up, not only am I grateful, but I also know this is another day of school for me. And that's the one thing that I go throughout the day when crap happens. I'm not supposed to cuss, so I'm just going to say crap happens. The first thing, instead of trying I'm trying to be decent. But okay, when shit happens in your life, especially in the day, and usually it's from people that you hold dear to yourself. And that's what I've found. I found that people that really don't really have any place on my board of I guess, importance, significance in my
Mm-hmm.
life, they don't really bother me. But it's those people that I love, that I cherish, that I want to hold space for, that
Yeah.
seem to get me where it hurts the most. And I
Mm-hmm.
always have to come back. I find myself constantly throughout the day, Spirit, what do you want me to learn from this? I am
Yes.
the student. I'm not the victim. And here
Yes.
recently, I have had to say that more and more. You are not the victim, Penny. You are a student of purpose. What are you learning here?
Yes.
And that is something people always, people, sometimes people may think I'm crazy, but I do speak in third person because sometimes I'm talking to myself. Other times I have to have spirit say, I have to tell spirit, hold my feet, ground me, because I'm getting ready to flip off.
Yeah, yeah, true that. Do y'all see why I wanted her to be on this show, y'all? Not just what she's been saying, but because she is a part of my village, and I love her for that. She continues to uplift me in everything from day one. I just so grateful. So this is why I wanted to bring Dr. Pennie Murray on onto the uplift her moment. So tell us a little bit about your book, Giving Myself Permission.
Real quick, that book, I went to La Jolla, California. Never heard of that place, but I went there for a entrepreneur retreat. Entrepreneurs that felt stuck and couldn't get to the next level of where they wanted to go. And I was certainly in that space because I had just lost my retail business that I'd had for over 9 years, and I was just devastated. And in the process of going through that retreat, it was a 4-day retreat. I was the only black woman there, a black person there, period. And it was 7 of us in this intimate retreat and did a lot of crying, purging, insightful revelations and things like that. Discovery happened. And then I got on the plane coming back to Kansas City, where I lived at the time still, and found myself just prior to getting on the plane, I had met with everybody that was there, and we was doing our final, see you, safe travels and all this stuff, and found that our conversation did a whole 360. The way we came is the way we left, even though we had gone through this amazing retreat of discovery and things like that. And as I got on the plane, I started bawling. I'm crying, gut wrenching tears. And I'm saying, thankfully, people think that I might be crying because I'm leaving a loved one. But I was crying really, Portia, because I recognized that I'm coming back home the same way I left. And I felt like a failure. And in that moment, I just wanted to throw up. I wanted to throw up all the negative stuff that had ever been happening and said to me in my life. And Spirit said to me, I just, all of a sudden, I stopped crying and silence dropped over me. And I heard permission, the big word permission. And I was like, what? And then Spirit went on to say to me, you won't give yourself permission to be or to do anything other than you've always been told that you were. That's what started the book. I was like, oh my God. Spirit just started pouring on me. And it was like a 4-hour flight from California back to Kansas City. And when I'm saying sister was taking notes, taking notes, taking notes, but I did not know, even by the time I got to the luggage place to pick up my luggage and everything, in that moment, negativity came back. And I started doubting, was I good enough? Was I worthy enough? And that kind of stuff. So that has been a constant fight for me. And so when I sit down and wrote the book, the very first book was 97 pages. But I also began to realize, oh shit, this is going to cost me something. And it's going to be painful. And of course, then I didn't want to be dealing with it at that point in time, like most of us do anyway.
Right.
The cost, it's going to cost me too much. So I can't do that right now. And I decided I was going to do something totally different. I started coming up. I had my Jonah experience, Jonah in the belly of the well. The Spirit told him to go to Nineveh and help people. He like, hell no, I ain't doing that.
I don't know about that.
I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I'm like, I started coming up with all kinds of little different things. And yes, there was some success to it, but it was meager. It was very meager success. So and it's just been in the last, I want to say 7 years that I finally said, I surrender, I give, I cry uncle. Because every time I tried to run away from it, I just kept coming back to giving myself permission. And so I sit down, and now there's a whole almost 12 years of now additional experiences that I had. And so a book that started out to be 97 pages jumped to 300 and some odd pages. But even in that, I'm now in the process of revising that book, because I realized in retrospect, I'm looking back at that book, and it was the pretty lies that I was telling myself. There was illusionary explanations that I wanted to give people about the experience. And I found myself unable to continue to wear. I'm going not to, because this whole thing is going to be emotional for me, but I'm going to try to, especially since I just lost my mom. What a discovery there as well.
Yeah.
But I realized that I had told convenient, pretty lies. I didn't want to face my truth. So I wrote the book. I gave some glimpses of what I was going through, but I leaned heavily on the psychological aspects of things. And Spirit said, that's not what I told you to do. So I find myself, I had to rewrite it, and this time rewrite it in truth. The things are still there, but I guess the dress up, the costumes that I put on things are no longer there. But I was struggling with the last two chapters and revising it, and I couldn't understand why. The last two chapters are about self-work, going internally and doing your self-work, and then the secret is you. We want to think that the secret is outside of ourselves, but it ain't. Everything you need is right inside you. And they say that the longest distance is between your head and your heart. And I realized that while I was given the intellectual aspects of that book, I was afraid to go into the deep corridors, the dark corridors of my heart.
Come on, vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yes.
Yes, vulnerability. And I was scared of that. And so that's when Spirit said to me, my son, his girlfriend, my grandson, his girlfriend, we were all doing this vision board on New Year's Day. We were going to do a vision board. And in that, Spirit said to me that your strengths are in your fears. Your virtue is in your vulnerability. And I was like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Stop the press. But I have yet found that there is so much wisdom and strength in my fear, but it's how I perceive it, how I look at it. And that has just been an amazing discovery. And it only happened in the process, or the time span of my mother, watching her take her last breath of life, literally watching it happen, and then discovering things, messages that she left for us. And it has just been an amazing journey. In just 2 weeks, it's been painful. I'm not gonna lie about that, because it's been painful, but an amazing journey.
Yeah. And we'll touch on more. We'll touch on more of that in just a minute. So you recently, in the last year or so, have started a podcast, Straight Vibes No Chaser. Tell us about that.
Oh, listen, I'm trying to be as vulnerable on that podcast, but I still find myself that PhD behind my name is my Achilles heel. We live in a society that wants to put a whole lot of emphasis on the external accomplishments and things like that. And the work that Spirit has me in, the divine oneness is what I'm calling, or Elohim, has me in a space where intellect, it won't happen. It's all about what's in the heart. And I've got to go to that heart space. And that's a space that I find very scary. Just real quick, I'll give you an example of this. I was doing meditation. I'm big on meditation. And people think that meditation is always just about sitting still. But I like to remind people that's what's called active contemplation. And active contemplation, which is, meditating, can happen when you're driving a car. It's that automatic, that second nature activity that we engage in, walking our dogs or washing the dishes or whatever we're doing. It is space where there's quiet. Your active mind, your conscious mind, the intellectual self is distracted long enough for spirit to come in there and talk to you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I was in one of those moments, and I was going through one of the exercises that was in the way of mastery and the way of the heart. And it was talking about go back in, see yourself as this river, this ocean. And just beneath that is where all the jewels are. And so I decided to go in there, and I saw myself as a bobble, this little thing that fishermen use to tell them, it sits on top of the water, to tell them whether a fish is on the hook, and the bobble goes down a little bit, right? And I saw myself, I was red and white, this red and white bobble, and I'm just bouncing along the waves in the ocean. And then all of a sudden, I decide to follow the line down that was connected to me. And it went deeper and deeper into this water. And the further I got, I could still see the light. I was cool. I knew that I could still get back up the light. But the further I got, the darker it got. And then I found myself facing this really dark, dark abyss. And I knew on the other side of that abyss was where grace, where love, where spirit, where all of my grandeur was, the spirit self. But I was scared to go in there because it was too dark. And I looked and I hurried back up the line. And I was like, shit. Well, I was saying a much worse word. I was throwing the F-bomb all over the place because I knew, damn it, I'm still afraid. I'm still operating in fear. And so that became my practice. I wanted to see, and I wanted to see clearly. And so every day that I would go into meditation, whether it was contemplation meditation or actual sitting still meditation, I tried to go back down. I went back down that line, that fishing line, to go back to that dark space. And I finally got there, and I just stood there knowing that on the other side was everything. And I got there just this past week.
Yeah.
I got past the fear. And I tell people fear, people give, fear becomes what is it when they use each letter? I'm losing the words now. An acronym for fear. Yeah, acronym for fear for me is the fear is just the fragile ego's alternate reality. Our egos are wounded, so they become fragile. And like I said about my book, I was telling the pretty lies because my ego was too fragile at the time to tell the ugly truth and to be in that dark space long enough. But I found that the dark space was just a step across.
Yeah.
It was just a step across, but it was just so black, so dark. I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That reminds me of there's Will Smith has came out with partnered with Nat Geo and is doing these amazing excursions around the earth, and he is scared of water, okay? But he there's one episode of it, they're in this like bubble contraption thing, I don't know what it's called, and they go to the deep.
Mm-hmm.
And as they go down, like you said, you can see the light, but as you start going down, it gets darker and darker and darker. But kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, they discover some beautiful things.
Exactly.
That, like nobody knew that was there. And that's kind of going with what you were saying. And so that's what I was picturing as you were telling that story. It's really dope. That's really dope. But like you said, it's scary at first. It's really just, it's scary. And I identify with that as well, which is why I didn't do this live for so long, because I didn't want to go to the deep. But like you said, you can only run from stuff for so long because I mean, we're here, so you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I want to tell everybody listening is that all of us, and this is what Spirit shared with me, that Pennie, one step at a time. You've been in dark spaces before, and you stepped into it, and it was dark before you took the next step. That's what Spirit said to me. It's always going to be dark before you take the next step. But that's
Yeah.
about trusting ourselves. And because we live in a world that externalizes everything, we have lost the power to trust ourselves. We are
Mm-hmm.
distrustful of who we are. And so when Spirit is talking to us, channeling through us, we think, oh, that's just stupid. That's just me. I'm not worthy of great thoughts like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we
Mm-hmm.
continue to on this journey and quest of trying to find the sensei or the sage externally to save us.
Yeah.
And we won't go back in here because that's where the real joy, the real jewelry is in life. Yeah.
Right. Right. So yeah, with your podcast, The Straight Vibes No Chaser, I love how you coin Black History in Texas, how you just go deeper. And so for people that are listening, I know that sometimes it's like I don't want to go deep because again I'm afraid of what I might find. But it's very, very important to get to life's next steps. It really is. And so, definitely with Straight Vibes No Chaser, I feel like it gets you to think and to be more aware. Something I've been telling all of my aunts in this, in my grandmother's transition is you have you have the super aware and you have like the super unaware. And it's really up to you on which end of the
Yeah.
spectrum that you are. And so Straight Vibes No Chasers to me, along with your book, kind of puts you more towards that being super aware. And now there are very much what's the word I'm looking for? You do start getting held accountable for what you do know and who
Exactly.
you share with. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's
And,
one
and
of
that's
the beautiful things.
Yeah, and that's the bigger piece too, is that a lot of us to be held accountable, to wake up one day
Hmm.
and realize, and that's what Straight Vibes No Chasers has done for me. And I'm still
Hmm.
struggling, or not struggling, I'm still stumbling in because I'm disoriented because this is a new place for me.
Hmm.
To get on there and know that I am accountable for the words that I say and what people may take into accountability. I have to be accountable first for the things that I say and do. And so I'm a big proponent on holding people accountable. And I don't have to do it. You have to start doing it for yourself. Because
Yeah.
oftentimes when others try to hold us accountable, we see it as a personal affront and we want to flip off on people.
Hmm.
But when you start being self accountable, when you start doing your self work and
Hmm.
everything you do, holding yourself accountable for the shit you say and do. And that's when you wake up to saying, wait a minute, this bad thing happened to me and this bad thing happened to me. And that's why I'm saying we are not the victim, we're students.
Hmm.
And when we wake up to the fact of, wait a minute, hold on, all this stuff happened to me. But what was the common denominator? Who was the common denominator? Shit, it was me. I'm the common
Yeah.
denominator in
Yeah.
all this crap. And
Yeah.
so I have to go back and look and say, what's going on with you? Not what's
Hmm.
wrong, but
Yeah.
what's going on with you that you
Hmm.
needed this thing at that moment. As destructive as it may be, why are you needing that? What is
Yeah.
that for feeling that you are not wanting to be accountable for? So
Yeah.
we want to hold other people responsible for I feel, and I did it. You know, I wanted other people to be held accountable for my
I
pain.
did.
I was all in that victim mode.
Yeah.
I had a whole party. When I get into my pity parties, I had a whole line of music, pajamas that I wore,
Hmm.
the cap, the little scarf that I had, I'm walking around pitiful. I had a
A whole outfit ready.
whole outfit, my favorite drink. I had my wine poured, the whole bottle,
Hmm.
sometimes two. I'm getting into my pity party. And then one day I woke up and said, yeah, you kind of accepted that. You kind of allowed that. You let that happen. You gave that permission. And that was
Hmm.
gut wrenching painful. When I say I buckled, fell to my knees, and cried gut wrenching tears
Hmm.
to move into a space of accountability, I
Hmm.
ain't gonna lie to y'all, it's painful, but necessary. And
Ooh.
that's why you will hear me say over and over again, collateral beauty. That's not my original thing. I got that from a Will Smith movie I saw years ago.
Love the
And
movie.
I never could understand. I never could understand collateral beauty. Collateral beauty.
Yeah.
I call, collateral damage, but not beauty. And
Yeah.
I understand now the collateral
Hmm.
beauty that in everything, every tragedy that we think we've gone through, if we take a moment to come out our pity party and say, what the hell was that all about? And I am not a victim. I'm a student. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to be learning in this?
Yes, come on, spiritual work. Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the your new endeavor, the learning spa.
The learning spa is something that I'm driving down the street and I'm saying to Spirit, Spirit had told me probably about 3 years ago, and I do oracle reading, card readings and stuff like that. And I was just feeling that, and I'm owning that now because that was been something that I have not wanted to say, scared,
Yeah.
because let me just say, I come from a Christian church, I was
Hmm.
all up in, European religion. And then I got into meditating and spirit. Honestly, I'm hearing spirit talk to me, and I'm having
Hmm.
these opportunities where I'm sitting at the council table of the celestial beings, and I'm in the room sitting at the table. And so I was doing this oracle because I really wanted to understand. Okay, I call Uncle. I say enough. I'm just going to surrender. What is it you really want me to do? And the first card that I pulled in the oracle reading was an ouch card. And Spirit said to me, you are to heal the ouch within the African American community. And it didn't come to me in here recently because I thought I attached the ouch to the political garbage that we're going through, racism, discrimination, blah, 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 blah. But that
Hmm.
is the effect of it, but it's not the cause. And so I had to ask Spirit, what is the ouch? And so at first, when I said the ouch, okay, I said, you got to get, how do I do that? Let me just be honest. First, I said, shit, no. Black folks are hard headed as hell. They don't want to
Yeah.
listen to no damn body. We got an attitude about everything. Hell no, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest. I did not want to be bothered because black folks, we are hard headed as hell, and we like to
Hmm.
put on a facade. My grandmother used to always say, the deeper the hurt, the more lipstick you put on, and that's the
Mm.
shit we be doing, you know. So, so that's why this shirt right here, Black, Strong, and Vulnerable, is my favorite
Yes.
because that's the facade we put on. But it's still, I said, okay, if I'm supposed to heal the ouch, now let me just explain ouch, because I'm like, that's minimizing the situation. We got some real deep pain. And he says,
Hmm.
no, Spirit says to me, no, the ouch is a nurturing word. Remember when we were kids, you guys, if we had an owie, we'd go to our mother or our grandmother, whoever that we thought really loved us, and we say, look what I got an owie. Sometimes you couldn't even see the damn thing, but they would go along
It's
with
right
it.
there.
It's right there. And they go along and hug you up and put a band-aid
Yeah.
on it. Just wasted
Yeah.
the damn band-aid. But guess what? We
Yeah.
skipped away happy,
Yeah.
feeling healed and whole. And so
Hmm.
that's what Spirit was saying to me about the ouch. It is a nurturing word. And it gets us away from the victim mentality. This is just
Hmm.
an ouch, and we need to address it. We need to put salve on it, to hold space, others around us to hold space, to understand that this ouch may need be big enough that we need to have a sterile environment so proper healing can happen. And so I was like, okay, how do I do that? And then Spirit, I pulled three other cards that Spirit told me to pull. And the cards were, first and foremost, you got to clean up your house. And that cleaning your house is in the heart and mind. Okay.
Hmm.
Doing this mind work, that self work, that's cleaning your house. Got to get all that cobwebs and shit like that we've been holding on to. You got to open up
Hmm.
them damn closets that, in black families, we say, well, the skeleton leave, don't open the door. Leave, what happens at home is don't tell your dirty
Yeah.
laundry. This is
Yep.
about cleaning that crap out. The second thing I'm supposed to do is to teach people how to reach out to their spiritual help and ask for assistance. The card was rescue. And it's not that you're helpless, it's that we've forgotten our power. And so the
Hmm.
spirit has to come back alongside of us and reintroduce us to the power we have become, I don't know, we forgot. So that's the second phase of it. And then the last phase, which is so important, we have to trust who we are, that we are exactly as spirit created us to be, and that we are the incarnate of spirit in physical form. All of us are channeling. We are channelers. You get into psychic, mind, body, spirit kind of conferences, and they talk about, I'm a channeler. I bring back, we're all channels. Spirit is using each and every one of us in our perspective ways. I see Chef is on here. She channels through her cooking and giving meals and doing it in a loving manner, okay? Because she can work the hell out of a vegan breakfast thing, and I'm like, what?
Yes, she
But
can.
that's a ministry. That's a ministry, and Spirit is channeling through her. And that's your ministry. We got to start showing up as Black folks. How do we do that? How do we show up? Trust that self, that sacred expressive life force. That's the self that I'm talking about. So when you hear giving myself permission, it's the sacred expressive life force. You are tapping into the divine oneness that is inherently who we are. So yeah. So the learning spa is an inner wellness and cultural incubation center. Why do I say cultural? Because it's a lot of shit we don't know about our own damn selves. I'm gonna be honest, white folks know more about us than we do. And that's why they are making sure that they are constantly rewriting the script. So that we, as long as we stay stupid to our history, to who we are, to the power we have, then yeah, they can narrate the story any way they want to. So the cultural part of it is to reintroduce ourselves not just to the power and the sustainability that we had as African Americans. Our ancestors did some real shit. Okay, we might have looked at it as, well, that was slavery. We don't want to accept our whole history. And that's where we go back and look for the collateral beauty in that shit. Okay? So the cultural part of that is to understand that. But the incubation center is, because I put the word incubation in there, because when a newborn is born before its time, or it's not fully developed, it's not fully developed physically, it has got to be in a sacred place to that incubation center, so that they can develop organically. And that's what the Learning Spa, Inner Wellness and Incubation Center is all about. It's in the making. I haven't done it yet, but I have started a phase of it through the North Dallas Black Inner Wellness Collectives. And we did our first meetup the 14th of this month, January. We're still in January. Our next one, that anybody who is in Dallas and wants to attend, we're calling all the spiritualists, sacred workers. I'm calling you out of the closet, because we're here, just like me. I've been in hiding. If you're doing tarot card reading, if you're into holistic healing in any way, I'm calling you out, because we need to begin a community where we are first uplifting and encouraging each other, because it's scary admitting that kind of stuff. Okay. So our next one is on February the 11th, I think the day is. But it's the second Friday of every month. And I'm excited about it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm a firm believer that God shows up everywhere.
Exactly.
And people
Exactly.
need to stop limiting God
Woo!
just showing up in a particular place. So
Girl, you
I know
better
some
say
people
that.
might be watching this and be like, "Oh my gosh, tarot cards! Oh my, like, look, he shows up
Yes.
everywhere."
And I'm wanting in the stars. I did a podcast on Straight Vibes No Chasers about how our ancestors found freedom by following the celestial stars, numerology, astrology, and we need to stop talking crazy about, oh, that's demonistic, and oh
Yeah,
my God, we need to wake up.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's kind of transition it, because I feel like the learning spot and all of this is coming to this moment of the recent pivotal uh, moment in your life. Um,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Well, like we said, my mom passed, and my mom and I's relationship has always been tumultuous since I was 10 years old. And I'm not ashamed of it, but next week I will be turning 65 years old. And for 54 years of my life, I saw and I knew that my mother treated me differently than everybody else. All of my sisters and I had our the inherited weaknesses. We were affected by that, and I talk about that in my book of Giving Myself Permission, what inherited weaknesses is. But all of us have been, I guess, influenced or um, scripted in some way with that, but me more than anyone. And I remember I left home when I was 15 because it was so bad between me and my mother. And I told my mother then, before you make me hate you, I will leave your house. And that's what I did at 15 years old. So I've been on my own since then, and our relationship has always been hard. And as much as I tried, I was never good enough. I always felt I was not good enough. And I will say that the last interaction that me and my mother had again ended so badly. And I kissed her on the forehead and I said, I will forever always love you. And I left. She said to me, I wish you never came. And everything in me said that she was saying, I wish you were never born. And it hurt me. And I told my sisters, I can't do this anymore. Because every time I come around my mom, it's always the same thing. It's
Yeah.
the stabbing, it's the re-injuring of things that I'm keep trying to heal. And I couldn't understand why. And I'm not going to say that I didn't agitate her in some way, because that's a whole nother story, because I did. Because I was determined to be free. My mother wanted us to do as I say do. You know, I think she saw me. If I questioned anything, she saw that as insubordination, and I got in trouble for it. But I didn't break. There was this freedom about me that I had to have, and that irritated my mother. So, long story short, our relationship has not been good. So when I watched my mother, she demanded to have the oxygen taken off of her. And I sat in the parking lot here in Texas, and I was running errands that day. Had left the barber shop. Tree, shout out to her because she's a badass barber. I'm telling
Yes.
you, badass. Okay,
Yeah.
so I went to get my hair cut for the event. And just a week prior to that, Spirit said, I was on vacation. Spirit said, your vacation is going to be extended by bereavement. And I'm like, yeah, no, I ain't hearing that. I don't want to hear it. Who? And I didn't put it out of my head. And every time I thought about one of my parents, I said, well, Penny, don't be cute because it could be you too. And so, because I travel a lot, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I just didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to deal with it. And then they said to me what, and I was like, no, my mother's too stubborn. Nothing's going to happen to her. And so when we sit there, and I was in the parking lot watching her on video as she took her last breath, and as she was transitioning, it was a 2 hour ordeal of her, when the time she demanded that they take oxygen off of her to the time she crossed over. I kept wanting them to keep the phone on her because I was in Texas, they were in Kansas City. And I wanted to visually see her because I was seeing my mother. She was having I saw my uncle, my two uncles, her two brothers, and my grandmother off to the left of her, which was my right, at her forehead, at her top of her head. And then there was four angelic bodies that were there, tall, grand. And they kept saying to my mother, you don't have to do this. And my mother was having a conversation with them and then having a conversation with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a time that they turned the sound down, and I was like, I can't hear her. I can't. Well, she's just gibbering. I said, no, she's not gibbering. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing her talk to them and then us. And she got to the point where she was saying, I'm not scared. I'm ready to go. I'm really, I promise you, I'm ready. I'm ready. And she started begging, the angelic people that she was ready to go. And then
Mm-hmm.
I saw them gently smile. And then my mother, in that moment, she was so beautiful. She was talking about she didn't have her dentures in. And I saw this woman with no dentures, her hair all
Yeah.
over her head. And
Yeah.
she was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
She was absolutely gorgeous. And I watched her take her last breath. And it was something in me that just, I don't know. And my daughter called me and she said, Mom, I can take you now. And I said, well, she's gone, baby. She says, well, if you change your mind in the middle of the night, I don't care. I will take you. And so we left the next morning to go. But in the whole process of that, uh, I remember the wake. It was in the wake. Well, prior to that, we were going through some of her stuff because my younger sister and my older sister, they said that Mom had them in charge. And so we were going through all her things, and we found two letters. One of them were said for my 5 daughters to read after I die. The other one said for my 5 daughters to read after my funeral. So we read the first one because she had passed. So we read it. And it was this poem. And the name of the poem it's named Who Cares? And when I say everything that I felt about my mother, the tumultuous, back and forth that we had, and the feelings of why doesn't she like me? Everything was answered in that moment. And I just wept. I just cried. And when she wrote the original one, it was in 1999. And I'm saying to myself, why wouldn't she have shared that? The vulnerability. Why
Yeah.
couldn't she have shared that? Had she shared that with her 5 daughters, first off, we wouldn't have made some fucked up choices that we made. Secondly, I would have had a different mindset from my mother. There would have been, anyway, I just know that obviously this is how Spirit planned it. That's why I say collateral beauty. And in the pain that I felt of knowing that I didn't have the relationship with my mother that my sisters had, I was wrestling with that. And so when we read the poem, I just couldn't let it go. It just kept spinning in my head. And funny enough, I had planned my first event for the North Texas Black Inner Wellness Collectives was on the 14th. My mother passed on the 10th. So my daughter had to rush me back home. She had to go to work too as well. We came back on Thursday night. My event was on that Friday. But on the drive back, prior to that, my grandson had been saying to me, Grandmother, what are you going to say? Are you ready for your event? I said, well, yeah, I know this and this. I said, but I don't know what I'm going to say. And he asked me again, Grandmother, what you going to say? I don't know. I got nothing. This went on for the entire week or 2 weeks prior to. I got nothing. When my mother passed, I came back and the poem was read. On the way back, Spirit said that poem is the cornerstone of your work. That's what you will read at the event. And that's the work of the ouch within the Black community. When I say, the mayor and his wife was there, other people showed up. It was a lot of people there, other collectives that are, spiritual workers. And I read it. And when the mayor got up to stand, he was trying to hold back tears himself. It was moving for me. When I say I did a 180, and I saw such grace, graciousness that I was able to give my mother and myself. And I spoke at her wake and I said, I don't have the experience of my sisters because they were all talking about things, beautiful things and sharing the loving moments with her. I didn't have that. But I know that there was the collateral beauty that was given to me in the poem. And that is my work for the rest of this life. The learning spa is going to be built on that poem and the message behind that. Everything I do will be built on that. And where my mother couldn't break free and convert the negativity into positivity to feed and to nurture her daughters, I'm going to take that information and I'm going to convert it for my mother. And I am a liberator. God has called me healer and liberator. And freedom was important to me. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. There's so many people within the Black community that we put on a lot of makeup and the lipstick is thick. but there's that hurt that is inside that we are not wanting to talk about.
Yeah.
Portia, if you don't mind, can I read the
Go right
poem?
ahead. Yeah, go
Because it
right
is,
ahead.
when I say it is impactful, it says the poem is called Who Cares? Someone's there, but who cares who's there? Hurt, pain, and despair. But who cares? There's no one there. Who's there? A little girl, but no one cares. Let her speak. No one's there, so who cares? So what to do? I keep it inside. No one cares that it's hurt, pain, and despair. How do you tell them that there's hurt, pain, and despair when no one asks and no one cares? The father who never cared, brothers who never cared and were never there, friends who never stayed and all too soon went away, while hurt, pain, and despair stayed. Who cares? A husband who never shared, was never there and never cared. Another she loved, he shared, but left hurt, pain, and despair. So who cares? A mother loved, but could never share all the hurt, pain, and despair. Wait, I see children with hurt, pain, and despair. Will someone care? Is there anyone there? Someone is there when no one cares. So please leave hurt, pain, and despair with the Lord, for he cares. Lovingly, Maudetta Walker, my mom.
I thank you for sharing that with us. And I hadn't heard the poem, but I'm very grateful. I just want to say my grandmother's dope.
I said my mother was a baller shot caller. I'm telling you on this ordeal, all right? My mother took care of some shit that most of us are still, people played my mother as insignificant, common, to the point that, well, she's not highly educated. But how my mother rolled on this, she had all of her funeral stuff paid for.
Yes.
She had money in the bank. We walked into the cemetery and only had to make four decisions. Four decisions. And that was on what date and time, what flower arrangement you wanted on her casket, how many death certificates, and what printer did you want to use for the obituary. She was a baller and shot caller. I know people who have a higher education in my own family who did not have their shit in order like that. But they played her for common.
Yeah.
And I'm saying my mother, the hurt, pain, and despair were capitalized as if they were a noun, speaking of a person, a characteristic that she could never shake and let go. But while my mother couldn't do it, despite it all, the inherited weaknesses were passed down because she was too ashamed to share the hurt, pain, and despair of poor choices in her life. And I can certainly relate to that because I've been in situations where my decisions were to share with someone was painful because I was ashamed of them. But one of the things that I've always promised myself to my nieces and my nephews, my children, my grandchildren, as hurtful as it may be, I tell the truth.
Yeah.
I have shared with you guys some of the most craziest shit that I've done. And I'm like, what the hell was wrong with you when you were doing that? But I felt it was important to share with you all what I was doing. And yes, damn it, that's the vulnerability. Black folks like to, we like to, pound our chests about strong, black and strong.
Yeah.
That we like that. But to add in their vulnerability, heck no.
You don't know
we're not playing that.
How many times either wearing that shirt, I went to vendor events having that shirt and selling it. People will be like, yes, strong and black. But as soon as they seen the vulnerable, what's the vulnerable? Like, they listen, it's just like,
no, exactly.
Like, you have to have that because there's strength in the vulnerability. And even
the collateral beauty.
I thank God that for my grandmother, because even with that poem, it reminds me that she had a light. Now, it might have been kind of buried with the hurt and the pain on top of that, but she had a light, and she has placed that in her legacy, which are us. And this is a part of why Uplift Her exists.
Exactly.
And so I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful.
So when you talk about I know her, I
Mm.
know her.
I
In that
know her.
poem, I know her.
Okay.
I know her. I know
Yes.
the shame of being of putting yourself out there, because people will take your in your most vulnerable place and cut you.
Yes.
When
Yes, they
you're trying to
will.
share your truth, to give them wisdom, they'll come back and use it against you. But damn it, I know her. I know my mother. I see the faces of women and men alike that
Yes.
are drowning in their own hurt, pain, and
Yes.
despair. But
Yes.
we Gucci it up. We,
Yeah.
you know, we put all kinds of hair and nails and eyelashes and
Mhm.
designer wear. We
Mhm.
balling, but we really
Mhm.
ain't.
Mhm.
Okay. So one of the things that I have to say in a pivotal moment for me, to start positioning myself and breaking the facade that I had started when I started studying the Course in Miracles. I went through a whole year of that, and I still continue to go back and visit every lesson every day. And in chapter 26, it talks about, in the Course of Miracles, it talks about transitioning. And in
Mhm.
that it says that the holiest place on earth is when, excuse me, when an ancient hatred becomes a present love. It goes on to say that when hatred is released to love, it becomes the brightest light in heaven's radiance. So I think about me and my mother's relationship, and I told my sisters, because I was struggling with it. They had something that I didn't have, and I had to figure out, am I jealous? Am I envious? Do I feel
Mhm.
cheated? I'm angry because I didn't have that in the physical form. And Spirit came back to me and to heal that ouch. And he says,
Yeah.
no, you didn't have it in the physical, but you're about to have a hellified relationship with her in the spiritual. So
Yeah.
my mother is sitting at the conference table that
Man.
I have gone to in spirit form to get counsel from. And the
Mhm.
relationship we will have on this side in the spiritual way will is so, I mean, it's just, I'm excited. It gives me chills because I'm excited about
Yeah.
all of the things that she will now be sitting at the conference table with all of my other relatives, my grandmother, my uncles, and other people that have gone before her who love me and who agreed to be with me on this journey. And to
Yeah.
know that I am going to have a relationship with with my mother that I was never able to have in physical form, because all of that
Mhm.
crap, all that shit we cover up with, the limitations
Mhm.
of our humanity is now gone. She sees clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you like to pass down to the next generation about expressing femininity? Because vulnerability is definitely the top of femininity essence, and that's what Uplift Her is about. It's not just gender; it's about feminine energy. So, what would you like to pass down to the next generation?
I, right now, I think that for me, femininity is also given a bad rap of weakness. Um,
Hmm.
and it's not. You think about the many women that have been single parents, my mom, and so many others that are holding shit down,
Hmm.
that are there for our black men at every turn, even though there's sometimes it seems as though they betrayed us and left us behind. But that feminine energy stays strong and it stays true. And I would
Hmm.
like to say to people, don't be afraid of disowning your feelings. Being in that vulnerable space takes more courage than dressing up the ugly shit and being, telling those pretty lies to yourself. You want to walk
Hmm.
around talking about you strong and black? Well, let's see you be real strong and look at some of those vulnerable places and
Yes.
come to healing in that. You want to tell me
Yes.
about how strong and black you are? Let's see you
Yeah.
go to that vulnerable
Yeah.
place and and
Mm.
and tap into that feminine energy that is about healing and nurturing us as a community back to wellness,
Yes.
wholeness. So yeah,
Yes.
I just want to say to people, and listen, you're gonna have some crying. If you get into true vulnerable, if you get into your true vulnerable places, oh, you'll have some tears. But I'm gonna tell you
Oh,
something about those tears.
you gonna
They
feel naked.
water, huh?
You gonna feel naked too,
You're gonna
and
be
it's
feel
okay.
naked. You're gonna be feel naked. You're gonna cry. But those
Yeah.
tears is the healing energy. They're
Mhm.
watering your garden of life. And
Yes.
it's like I love the energy of the phoenix. The
Mm.
phoenix, it's said, that mystical bird, the phoenix, it's said that their tears have healing energy. So please do not be afraid of crying. Even in the Christian
Mhm.
Bible, those of you who follow the Christian, European Christianity, listen, it even says there that
Yeah.
that spirit takes your tears and measures
Mhm.
every one of them.
Mm.
So just cry those tears in sincerity. Get in that
Mhm.
vulnerable place and don't be
Yeah.
afraid, because that's really what's really holding us back. It ain't not a damn thing about politics or nothing else out here. What's holding
Yeah.
us back is that we won't get in that vulnerable place where our real strength is.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I
Yes.
want to say.
I just my the hairs on my arm is just standing up, and I just feel like just joy is beaming from me right now. I just want to thank you so much for taking this time out to do this with me, and even after losing your mother, I knew you was gonna say yes because I know her, okay, and that's one thing that I just love about my auntie is the vulnerability that she continues to share with us, and I just thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for blessing us with your words of encouragement and wisdom. Is there anything that you would like to add on before we end this?
You are never the victim of life. You are always the student of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
What is life calling you to? The purpose. What is it teaching you? What is it
Yeah.
preparing you for? So that you can step into your ministry. Because there are people out here waiting for you to walk into your
Yeah.
grandeur and stop downplaying and minimizing who you are. We've
Yes.
done enough of that. We've paid our dues there. So step into the light and learn
Mm.
those lessons and come out here, balling and shot calling like you're supposed to be. That's all I'm going to
Yes.
say.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, I thank everybody for tuning in, and I thank you again, Auntie, Dr. Auntie.
I'm always going to be auntie.
Yes. Well, it was a pleasure, and thank you, everybody, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank
Mwah.
you. I see you guys. Ashe.
Yes.